Hello, everybody, and welcome to the first episode ever of the Esports Architects podcast. I'm your host, Bearlight, and on this podcast, we design and discuss the esports ecosystems together with you guys, covering the building blocks of the industry, supporting the grassroots efforts in esports, and keeping you in loop with what we're doing here at the Carolinas. I'm here with the team that I'm fortunate enough to work alongside every single day. So let's get to know the teammates and who they are. Here on the left, we've got TJ Collins, the Director of Operations. Next to him on the right is Rick Suarez, and he's the Managing Director for the Carolina Esports Hub. We've got Kyle to his right as well, who is, what do you do? Just kidding. The Director of Technology there. We've got Johnny Saldana with us as well. He manages the events here in this space as well. And we've got Matt Warsman, our Creative Director. If you've seen any kind of designs, you know he's the one that puts the finishing touches on those to make them look crisp. So appreciate you guys being here. I'm going to toss it over to Rick first. Obviously, he's the owner of the Carolina Esports Hub. And talk to us a little bit about your story, how you got into esports, and talk a little bit about the hub as a whole.
Sure. Thank you, Bear. Carolina Esports Hub. Obviously, we do a number of different things, all esports-centric in nature. I started my journey down esports literally because of my family. My oldest son, Nick, who works here now, is the gamer in the family, big Rainbow Six player. Frankly, I was the dad saying, what is all that, right? But I kept hearing rumblings in the esports space in general. This is going back a few years. So what I did is I just did a deeper dive to kind of understand the space better. Really what stood out to me is the massive growth potential at the high school and collegiate space. College was already starting to pop off quite a bit, and high school kind of I felt as would follow suit. So we started a company known as Stay Plugged In. That's where I founded. Basically, you think of any sport out there, you have a recruiting mechanism to help high school students get to college. Well, that's what Stay Plugged In is for esports. So we try to identify all the different high school talents throughout the nation and connect them with the right schools throughout the country as well at the collegiate level to help them with scholarships. So that's kind of my story as to how I started with Stay Plugged In. But the hub does more than that. As you alluded to, Matt runs Emerge, which is our merchandising arm, and actually he's got his hands on every single vertical, all of the neat graphics, as you mentioned. He's not just the finishing touches, he's the start, the middle, and the end to everything we do there.
That's an understatement.
Yeah, right. Honestly. By the way, can you help me with, no, anyway.
I'll be right back.
Yeah, we've got our Charlotte events, which is both consulting and events. Johnny, and I'll let you kind of dive into what you've done in just literally under a year in the event space for us here, which has been fantastic. But we also do consulting under the Charlotte events arm as well, and we'll dive into that a little bit. But last but not least, we've got the Charlotte Phoenix, which is actually my segue to turn it over to you a little bit, because that's really, I think, the first business vertical out of all the ones we just mentioned that started in the city of Charlotte, and you were one of the founding members of that. So I'll kind of let you introduce that and where you started.
Yeah, it was, I think it was April of 2019 I filed for the LLC of CLT Esports at the time. It wasn't even, it was, you know, we've got these 4 companies now, but I remember the LLC back then. And it was honestly started because I had just gotten fired from my job. Which is the beginning of a great story. It's like, I got fired from my job. And I was lost trying to figure out what I was going to do. And I ran into a bunch of different people, one of which was Matt, and he was at a place called Tabris in downtown Charlotte. And we hit it off, and there was a group there, and we talked about esports and all the things we could do and decided to start a professional team. And then it all went burning from there. Literally burning for the Phoenix side. But it was nice. It was really funny because Matt and I's first interaction was like super hostile because there was somebody that was trying to figure out how we could figure out equity, because we were young and trying to figure out what equity looks like and all that stuff. And
I don't think it was. I wouldn't classify it as hostile. I would say, okay, so you got fired. I was transitioning out of a partnership, a business partnership that kind of went south, and you obviously knew who that was and kind of started the esports thing with him. And there was some contention, I guess, there with he didn't want you to approach me for help because then he knew I'd want to be a piece of this, because my lifelong dream has, you know, my passion and background lies in design and branding, and lifelong dream to be doing that for a professional, you know, sports team. Yeah. So obviously esports, we all feel that's professional sports. And, you know, it was a dream come true when we started working together and kind of redid the branding. We did the rebranding.
You realize you just said it was a dream come true when you started working together. He's going to put that above his bed
right.
tonight.
I'm going to go home. I'm telling my wife that.
Well, that's only now because I could fire you and just be like, yeah, fired.
You know, it's actually really funny. Even the beginning of that story is even tough because I'm terrible at Photoshop. Like anybody that knows me, it's like I can clunk around in there and maybe get something.
You're not allowed to use Photoshop.
Yeah, you've actually told me that before. I'm not allowed to use Photoshop. And it was so funny because I was trying to create a graphic for the Rocket League team back then, and I couldn't do it. And that's why I was like, I think that guy knows how to use Photoshop. I need to talk to him.
I just started doing your graphics. I just started doing your
Took it
graphics.
all.
You can throw some
Didn't tell
exactly what I
anybody.
mean.
It was like, here you go. Here's some art. What you're doing is not great. Let me make this better.
Yeah, and it was chaos. Rick, you can.
I kind of forced my hand.
Yeah, Rick, you can talk a little bit about your experience when you first met that Phoenix group at that time. Yeah.
Sure. So interestingly, obviously, again, Stay Plugged In kind of was my bread and butter. I'm very savvy on the traditional sports world of recruiting and everything else based on my life story, my family. So it was an easy transition, in my opinion, to just say, hey, this is exactly what we should do in the esports scene. In doing that, I had met you guys because you guys were going out for your financial raise in respect to the Charlotte Phoenix. So I was interested in trying to elevate and be a part of that as well, because I felt like, as what's the saying? All boats
Rising
tides
tides
raise all ships.
There you go. Yeah.
Thank you.
I always mess that one up too. So.
I'll continue to mess it up. So that's where I started. I came in as a large investor into the Phoenix, and then it sadly turned south pretty dang quick. I remember, obviously investing into the Phoenix, but not really knowing a lot of the folks running it personally, just kind of the story behind why, what, where, and where they were headed. Out of the blue one day, I get a call from CJ, hey, we should probably sit down and meet. And I'm like, yeah, I'm excited. Let's talk about the Phoenix. This is going back to 2020, just before the pandemic hit. And luckily, CJ was just brutally honest in respect to just telling me, look, I don't think we're doing very well. I think you should come in and take a look around as to what's going on financially, and see if you could help. Because I obviously have run businesses before, et cetera. So I came in, had a meeting, looked at the books, and was terrified. At the end of the day, I looked at it, and there was about a 45-day runway left, headed into the pandemic. So without getting too riled up, I was like, all right, well, what's the strategy here? How can we continue on?
By the way, amazing that you say that, not getting too riled up, because that's something I remember very vividly about that situation. We had a lot of meetings, and you were always like so calm, and I was always thinking to myself, how are you calm right now, Rick? So kudos to you on that, bro.
Only on the
Level heads
outside.
prevail, right?
That's right, yeah.
So the strategy, the feedback I heard back was, we're going to get sponsorships. We've got a creator team we're going to hire and put them in a house. And I'm thinking, that's an expense. That's going to add to your burn rate. And you're not going to see the benefit of that in 45 days. And from a sponsorship side, we get sponsors, right? But those monies are not allocated, to pay salaries and to do this or do that. It's really allocated to amplify the message of our sponsors more than anything else. We want to be, one second.
Coke break. This has been sponsored by Coke.
We want to make sure that we're able to deliver on those promises, right, at the end of the day, and not spend the money foolishly. So I felt like the core group really had some good intent, and we're headed in a direction that they ultimately wanted esports to be paramount here in the Carolinas, but we're going about it the wrong way. And the timing of it, right, as the pandemic was starting to shut everything down, was horrific as well. So I jumped full bore in, and we had to make a ton of cuts at the end of the day. We cut workforce, we cut salaries, we ran out of money, which then I started to fund myself. I started to put the money up to make sure that we would stay afloat and amplify our messaging, because I still saw the light at the end of the tunnel, and luckily I was surrounded by a number of people that saw the light at the end of the tunnel as well. But it was a shit show. I mean, we had to pay back people. I had no idea, hadn't been paid. If you look at just our backyard in the city of Charlotte, there were communities literally that wanted nothing to do with the Phoenix. And I'm like, huh? What's going on? I met John, and John's like, bro, everybody fucking hates you guys. I'm like, why? And, unfortunately, as this startup had begun prior to my getting there was a lot of bravado, a lot of, hey, we're the best out here. We're going to do it this way. We don't care if you join us or not. We're top dog. type of mentality. And I just don't think esports in general can survive that way, let alone at that time, but in general. So doing a lot of soul searching, I met literally with pretty much every leader of those communities within the city of Charlotte, so that I can say, hey, look, new ownership, new direction, new purpose, new message. We want to be a part of what you're doing. We want to amplify what you're doing any way we can. But at the same token, we'd love for you to try to amplify what we're doing, because that's important to us. We want esports to reign in the Carolinas in general. We're just part
that
of
message went over very well. I mean, the way that we've mended those and, those relationships, and now they come to us and ask for, hey, we're thinking about doing something cool. Can you help us execute? Or, working with the FC or the Charlotte Knights or any of these, the community is what we're a part of in building.
Well, that's the biggest thing. It's about the community. There's people that are going to get it right. There's people that are going to get it wrong. Frankly, I'm here to support and help anybody. I don't care. If they're getting it wrong and, hey, what did you guys do? How did you navigate through this? Hit us up. We'd love to chat and make sure you survive. If you're getting it right, how can you help us grow further? How can we help you? And that's, at the end of the day, that's how the community grows. It's all this other stuff that, you see this startup go and going about it the wrong way, or we're better than you, or we're better than that. Good luck. At the end of the day, it's not easy. No business is easy, but esports, it's tough. One of the things I love about where we are today, kind of fast forwarding the journey, is we got a good mix. We've got a great mix of folks that are, as you all would say, OGs in the esports space that are really gung-ho about esports in general and super knowledgeable in that field. I'm not one of those. But we've also got a number of folks my age or a little younger that have been around the block from a business perspective. We've made mistakes. We've failed, right? And we've grown because of it. And due to that, we've been able to survive some difficult times and navigate to get us into a position that I think we're ready to explode over the next couple of years and go from there. So I'm going to shut up for a moment because I feel like I've been talking this entire time. But I want to introduce one of the folks that we brought on board with John, because, frankly, I met him over at Tabris. Yep. Kudos, by the way, to J4. I know J4 did a lot behind the scenes for us as well, specifically at Tabris, and getting us going and helping us through his experience with Envy and so forth. But that's how I met John. At one of the events he had with CGN over at Tabris, and loved the way he was so detail-oriented and life of the party. And as we opened our space here, it was just a natural transition to say, hey, can you help us here? Can you help this venue space grow? And not only has it grown, but I'll let you kind of tell some of the story there.
Yeah, I mean, it's interesting how all of this works, right? We've talked a little bit about Charlotte Phoenix's history in our community and how that was taken wrongly by the previous administration and all of that. As the executive director of the Charlotte Gamers Network, the largest 501c3 gaming nonprofit organization in the country, we went into this relationship with a lot of hesitancy.
He was scared.
When you hear community leader after community leader share their personal stories as to how this organization hurt their prospects or hurt their organization, it really gave us a lot of pause. And we very carefully went into this partnership with the Charlotte Phoenix nearly 2.5 years ago. And I think to everybody's surprise, it went really, really well. What was incredibly motivating to me, and I think to our leadership team, as somebody who identifies as an openly gay Latino person here in the city of Charlotte, I've personally faced a lot of discrimination in the esports scene and community, especially among gamers. I'm sure all of us have horror stories of hearing how people speak to one another on games like Call of Duty and Valorant and other games like that. So to be in such a dominated industry by a lot of these archetypes, it was very refreshing to see that the Charlotte Phoenix really welcomed diversity. It was something that was quite surprising to many of us on our team. It was even more surprising to come to find out that the Charlotte Phoenix is one of the only minority-owned esports teams in the country. When I learned of that, me being Cuban from Miami and Rick Suarez being Puerto Rican, I think that really served to help bridge the gaps that I personally felt and had within the Charlotte Phoenix. So for that, what I think has been the most amazing thing to see in our journey from the days at Tabris to where we are now are truly the 4 pillars that we've built our verticals around, and that's diversity, equity, inclusion, and accessibility. No matter who you are, where you come from, how you are in the world, your class, none of that should preclude you from being able to participate in esports, and most importantly, participate within our organization. And that is something that has ring true from the very first day that I worked with the Charlotte Phoenix to right now and today, across 4 different verticals and all of the business opportunities that we're expanding upon. And I'm really excited to talk about some of our other events that we've done since then here pretty soon. But move it along.
Yeah, so John's being very, very modest. The event space here, thanks to John's efforts, was rated number 2 in the city of Charlotte in the last magazine poll that was taken. And you did that in 6 months? Not even?
Yeah, so Queen City Nerve, shout out to Queen City Nerve, amazing organization. Justin LaFrancois and Ryan Patikin, who run that organization. The Best in the Nest contest is something that's held every year here in the city of Charlotte. There's over 100 categories. And the Caroline Esports Hub, where we are right now, was rated number 2 in the entire city of Charlotte as the best venue to host an event in the city of Charlotte. We were able to do that in less than 6 months.
He's not bragging. Facts.
How many?
Right.
6?
Through the number of events that we've been able to host here, and through all of the relationships we've built, and of course, all of the Charlotteans and readers of Queen City Nerve, that's an award that was viewed by over 100,000 Charlotteans right here in the city. What I'm most proud of is that we've brought together demographics from all different types, unique people who come together under one banner. And what I'm really most proud of is that I've been given the resources, along with our vertical, to really reach out into the community and do things that are outside of our traditional esports focus. So what does that mean? We've been able to partner with organizations like the Charlotte Caribbean Association to really showcase Caribbean heritage and islander heritage throughout Charlotte. We've been able to partner with organizations like Mecklenburg International Fashion Week to host models who are coming in from all over the world to participate in this fantastic weekly event. We are also the home of Gamer Gathering, the largest LGBTQ+ gathering of Charlotteans in the Carolinas. We're larger than Raleigh, we're larger than Charlotte, we're larger than the Triad, and that happens right here in our venue, typically boasting between 300 to 500 LGBTQ attendees every single month. We've partnered with local politicians as well. We hosted the largest gathering of local, state, and federal political candidates and elected officials here in our venue, and gave our community the opportunity to meet Congresswoman Alma Adams, Mayor of Charlotte Vi Lyles, U.S. Rep. Jeff Jackson, and so many other people and electeds across both aisles, giving our gamers and our folks and our guests the opportunity to meet their representatives across aisle and being able to ask them the hard-hitting questions. And we were able to facilitate and produce that kind of space. I could go on and on about all the wonderful things we've done, but those are kind of the 3 biggest things that I feel that we did this year.
And that was in how many months, right? 6, maybe, up to a year.
Less.
Exactly. And not to mention, this venue was built by us from scratch. Scott's not here today, but Scott Hollingsworth, Chief Operating Officer, seeing him create and build the stage, we're actually sitting on it right now. And to see him put that together by himself and us as a whole collectively, putting together the lights, everything that goes into it, it's all handmade. And to see all these great events come through as well, and knowing that Scott worked his ass off here, right, building the stage, I think
the largest esports stage in the Carolinas.
It is. Scott's at home building a floor right now for the
deck.
I only build decks. No stages here, just decks.
So beyond that, just quickly to just segue off of that, we've also hosted Charlotte FC, Charlotte Panthers. Yeah. We've gone out to Charlotte Knights. So all of the traditional sports franchises in the community have partnered with us to do a variety of different things. NASCAR is a partner of ours. We held the Monday Night Racing Championships here for iRacing. We were helpful in getting them going for their Hall of Fame championship as well. Blumenthal has run an event here. On top of that, we've run a number of events through Stay Plugged In, which I'll circle over to you, Kyle, and you can talk a little bit about our strategy there. We obviously host a lot of events here in our venue, but we're a national company. So talk a little bit about Stay Plugged In and what we've been able to do on that vertical. Start with the event side, and you can talk again more personally about some of the accomplishments there.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks, Rick. For Stay Plugged In, we've had a great year, kind of starting with the launch of our newest platform and hosting a variety of events kind of throughout the Carolinas and nationally. We were over in Seattle at the beginning, well, just before the beginning of this year, PAX West, which was super awesome. We started this year out in PAX East in Boston, and we have since hosted lands in South Carolina and North Carolina at local collegiate campuses because we love to be involved with that particular community for obvious reasons in the recruiting world. And it's super cool to see everything we've been able to build as we travel all these events and set up the lands from A to Z, bring all the equipment in, bring all the production in, and then all the kids come and they get to interface with the college coaches, with their parents there, and have a really good recruiting experience to start those connections that hopefully lead to a scholarship opportunity, from which just this year alone we've been able to facilitate just about $12 to $13 million in just this recruiting class of 2022. We're right now
How much?
2023. Just 12 to 13 million.
Just
Just
1,000? No worries.
No, million.
in how many months?
Million.
Yeah, just the recruiting class. of 2022. So yeah, we're really thankful for being able to do all of this, and we're super proud of ourselves and everybody around us to be able to endorse that from everything from A to Z because it takes the whole team.
Yeah, but that's the point of the hub, right? At the core, that's the core. Amplify the messaging around esports, whether it's events, whether it's fulfilling merchandise and getting them cool-looking gear and kits and jerseys, et cetera, creating a bigger fan base for the Phoenix as we continue to grow, and getting high school students involved. One of the best events that we didn't talk about that I was ever a part of on the esports side was the CMS League that we helped to launch alongside of Tark Bakari and his company as well. And they had their championships here in-house, and the excitement in there, I won't go into that. I know you were here, and you helped tremendously with that league. I'll let you kind of share there.
Yeah, it's building an esports league is tough. There's a lot that goes into it. Bear knows because
I know firsthand.
we went to East Mecklenburg High School.
We went to you at West Charlotte.
West Charlotte,
Yeah,
sorry.
that's
So
right.
West Charlotte, and at West Charlotte, we just kind of went over. First time, the league hadn't even started yet. We were running tryouts, so we went to the cafeteria. We brought 6 computers, and we set up Rocket League. And we just watched the kids flock to us. Like, they just gravitated to us because they love gaming, and they wanted to talk about all the different games they wanted to play. And then we told them about this awesome league we were starting. And then we went through a 6-week season, and then finally the playoffs here. And just the momentum of the whole thing was amazing. Getting to see the students that had not competed in an esports title before, that was really cool because they got to experience a sport, right? That's electronic that they didn't know existed. Others that had already done it, there were some talented Rocket League players that came. During the finals, we had several college coaches here, kind of following our Stay Plugged In model and combining everything together. We allowed them to do some recruiting. But during that finals, there was one match that really stands out to me. It was Audrey Kell versus JT Williams on the stage. Game 5, a minute of overtime. You could feel the tension inside of the venue when it was happening. I mean, then when somebody scored, they're screaming. They're screaming so loud in here. They're just so excited about the win that they just gotten.
Yeah, I was on a Zoom call, and I heard it in my locked office with the headphones on. I'm like, JT. I'm like, oh my God.
Well,
it's
as a
going nuts out
caster
there.
for that event,
It was cool.
I had the noise-canceling headphones on, but they were like right next to me, right? And so the parents just erupting, and every time you could just hear it resonating, not only past the headset, but also through the microphone into the stream itself. It was quite the experience, and they were super excited about it.
That had to be one of my favorite events by far. And I say that, there was obviously a ton of excitement. It was new for CMS. We got a number of kids inserted, if you will, into the esports space. But what did it for me was seeing a ton of student body and parents with signs, just like it was a football game. It was like Friday Night Lights. So kudos to, again, Tark and us as we kind of really help fulfill the vision of bringing something pretty special here in our backyard and getting ramped up for that. On top of that, earlier this year, we also did the state finals for a league that we also were the backbone for, which was the NCISAA. So again, just amplifying the message of esports in every corner of the Carolinas. That's always what we will do, always what we have done, and I'm excited to continue down that journey from there. But going to backtrack a little bit.
Yeah.
Bear, tell us about your start.
Yeah.
Because
Tell
you
us.
have a little special story as to how you started and kind of where you are today.
It's funny. CJ got fired. I actually quit my job,
There
but
you go.
it was during the pandemic. And I was actually a bartender at a restaurant, and so I'd had enough of it, and they wanted everybody to come back. I was like, I don't want to do that. So I actually quit my job to go and be a full-time streamer. And so I was brought in the offices. At that point, it was Tabris, which we were talking about a little bit previously. And, you know, as a content creator, they wanted to pull me on for the Charlotte Phoenix, but I had a bigger vision, because when I came in, I obviously met all the guys. Probably, I think it was CJ first. We spoke.
Stats, baby.
Previously.
We were talking
That's right.
stats.
Talking stats all day long. You knew I was the right operations guy, but I learned that, you know, Stay Plugged In was running tournaments. I was a caster. I was like, I want to do that, right? I'm a content guy. So got on, casted for Stay Plugged In for a little bit. Even with the Phoenix, you guys brought me on right away. Super thankful for that. Who gets to cast a pro team right off the bat? And you guys trusted me. So I was able to come in and
Just listen to you.
You're amazing right now. Just keep talking.
terrible choice, you know what I'm saying? And so, you know, a couple months passed, and I just didn't want to go home. Like, I wasn't officially part of the team, but at that time, but you know, at the time I was like, that's what I want to do. I want to a cast, be a personality. They brought me on to do The Charge, which was a media show for Stay Plugged In, and we did that for a bit. And
you came on as an intern first.
that's right. Yeah, I was actually an intern after the first episode. I think you guys pulled me on, and I remember Rick coming up to me. He's like, "Hey man, you want a job here?" I was like, I think I do. I went home and I was like, let's go. I want to be here. I want to be here. And then I was brought on the team maybe a couple weeks later, and the rest is history.
So with your start, to Matt's point, you interned for a while.
Yep.
So you quit, and then you came in and worked for free. Well, intern. How long did that last?
It's probably at least 3 months, I believe.
So I think if I remember our conversation, your message was, I like to show you what I can do.
That's right.
You know, then if you can find a position for me, that'd be great, but I'd like to show you what I can do. And one of the things I've loved about the relationship that you and I have formed is you don't hold anything back. And we joke about it a lot, but I love that. At the end of the day, you can speak your mind, whether it's on a Discord message, email, or directly to me, just kind of, what are we doing? Or, I love that we're doing this, or anything in between, right? And the good news is you're level-headed enough that we can have great conversation and come to a conclusion. Sometimes you like it, sometimes you don't. Sometimes I like it, sometimes I don't, whatever. But I think from a esports hub perspective, it elevates us because we're able to have that constructive, critical type of conversation to make sure that we're doing it right. And that's one of the things in esports that is lacking, quite frankly, right? I mean, you have so many people, no, this is the way it should be, and it's got to be this, and hold on, let me give you some input, you know? And
it's new, right? We're defining it.
My
in
God,
a lot of ways, right?
it's so different now than it was 2-3 years ago, and it'll be so much more different 2-3 years from now.
Rarely do we ever have the same exact opinion on everything and the way it should work, right? But we always come to the same conclusion.
I don't agree, Matt. No.
You're fired.
But that's not the norm.
No,
it just isn't.
No.
You know, I mean, you see it in other companies out there in esports, whether they're here in our backyard or elsewhere outside of the Carolinas, that kind of momentum shift to the negative so consistently. And lots of times, like Bear, if you are honest for a moment, lots of the conversation we had, would you have all of the information or part of the information?
Only part of it.
Yeah. But based on the part that you had, you're like, this isn't right. What are we doing? So I sit down with you and say, well, hold on, let me kind of fill in all the blanks for you. Now what do you think? Well, I still don't like it a lot, but it's much better, right? At least it kind of resolved.
It gave us a path forward, I think, and that was the important thing. And I always brought the passion from what I saw. I completely saw a one-way path, if you will. And I think just your calm nature speaking really opened up my mind as far as the multiple paths, the bigger picture overall. And, you know, great passion is good, but sometimes I was a little bit too passionate on some things that maybe I didn't know about. But overall, I thought it worked out.
No, don't hold back. I love what you said, but my disagreement in that is you need that passion.
Yeah.
For us to continue to elevate our goals and our dreams and get there, we need passionate people that come in. I use the term courage and vision. You have to have the courage to come in here every day and believe that, hey, we're going to make this work. We're going to get to a certain point. And the vision of how we're going to get there, right? And some days we come in and, I don't know how we're going to get there, but we have an idea collectively we're going to get there. So I love what that has meant for us as a relationship, but as more importantly, what you've meant to the hub and helping elevating our vision and courage as well. So don't ever change that. I appreciate that.
One of the things that's really cool about that, Rick, and as you talk about that and say it out loud, the thing that comes to my brain is like, I think before I met you, and before I kind of started thinking about things a little bit more critically, I learned that as a player and being in the esports industry, we make a lot of assumptions. Like you know, when you're looking at it from that perspective, you don't understand why somebody's charging you $30 to come to an event. You don't understand why this thing costs so much, or there's all these different monetary perspectives of it. And one of the things I realized over time is like, oh, I get it, because now when you're on the back end, you see all those expenses. You see all the things that have to happen in order to actually run a business, for people to have jobs, to be able to do what they want to do. It's really, really easy looking at the other side without knowing, hey, there's like this building costs, you have to have electricity. Like there's so many things.
That's part of the allure of the whole esports, right? 'Cause
Yeah.
it all seems like glamour and fun and games, literally, right? But it's, there is that part of it, but we also grind behind the scenes. There is always something going on that's from the outside looking in. People don't see those wheels, and they don't see the teamwork. And, we all wear many hats, right? So we all have a very diverse skill set, but we also have that one common passion and underlying love for what we do, right?
Yeah.
That's what makes us stronger, and we're able to have different opinions, different ideas, and all collectively come around, sit in a circle, disagree at times, right? But then also be like, okay, cool, that's a really awesome idea, CJ. You rarely have those, but sometimes.
And how do we solve problems, right? And how do we get 40 PCs and 40 monitors up to Connecticut or up to the Northeast, or
Let's not do that again.
God forbid we have to go to the West Coast and have to cover those expenses. But that goes back to the business mind and being able to approach it the right way, think critically. And I think you brought up a good point in that way, CJ.
I hate that folks like to make assumptions about things they don't necessarily understand. They don't have all the facts, right? We make assumptions about things that we don't have the facts for, and because of that, we end up in a weird place thinking the industry works in a way that it really doesn't.
But it's amplified today more than ever. Like, you can take to Instagram or Twitter or Snap or whatever social medium you use and just kind of broadcast what you think is true. Little do you know that you are so far off base that it's impossible to almost defend sometimes based on what you see and hear out there. But we know internally and go to sleep every night incredibly comfortably knowing we're doing everything we can to amplify esports in the Carolinas. And we wake up every day knowing we've got a defined plan and a mission. And what your job is, and yours, and yours, and yours, and mine, and yours, while they're all different, they all kind of intersect at the same token. But anyway, talking about origin stories, Kyle.
Yeah, the man.
I'll just start with, I met him when he was drunk.
Nice.
I was. It was not work related, to be fair. I was on vacation.
It's always work related.
Yeah. I was on vacation at a friend's house, and then met Rick there, and from there it was wheels up. But fast forward from that moment to
Still drunk.
I want to hear more.
that was 2.5 years. That was 3.5 years ago. Anyways, about 3 or 4 months after that, when I finished up school, it was December of 2019, kind of heading right before the pandemic, unbeknownst to us. Started to run a few tournaments with Spin and was kind of there from basically day one. But I remember distinctly for me, kind of my origin story was I was just graduated from North Carolina, Chapel Hill, a really, really great university. And I walked up to my parents and I was like, hey, I'm going to do this esports startup thing. And they were like, excuse me? You want
How much did we pay on your education, Kyle?
You want to try that again?
Honey, I told you I was an idiot.
Absolutely love my parents to death, but I remember that distinctly of trying to explain at least something that they could understand. Like, no, it's like traditional sports, but it's recruiting. Same thing. Alabama gets their recruits. We're doing the same thing for the esports titles. They're like, okay,
Get out.
yeah. Luckily, they didn't kick me out, but I remember from the beginning we would go and we had a different office at a warehouse. That there's another business entirely operating there, so I would go work and stay plugged in for 4, 5, 6 hours during the day. Then I would literally build cardboard boxes so I could get paid to do that to make ends meet back home. And then from there, I'd go and work my serving job. I was a server at a local restaurant, so on and so forth. So we did that for the first month and a half. And I looked at Rick and I was like, can I get at least something? Just so I can, not have to do 3 jobs, but maybe just 2. And he was like, yeah, absolutely. But that's what it takes, right? I think so many people skip over the startup part of anything. This isn't just an esports thing. This is startup, whether it's a tech startup, whether it's a medical startup, whether it's anything. You have to get over that first hump, and it is hard. It is long work. You're not going to get what you would deservedly get, you could say, in a fully fledged corporate company, right? What you're like, hey, my skill set gets me this salary. That's not what a startup is being about. It's about building something special, and then the rewards come later. We're not even there yet. We're still very much in that startup phase. But I remember that kind of first months distinctly because the pandemic was there. COVID happened. My sister's dog, completely unrelated, had run away, and we were in the woods for like 2 weeks looking for that dog. So it was very difficult 6 months to say the least.
That was a really good visual. I just
Yeah.
envisioned you walking through the woods trying to find this
Literally.
dog for 2 weeks.
Yeah.
Is he back? He's
19
back?
days. Yeah, we found him. He's a little skittish these days.
What happened in those woods, huh?
Yeah. But I remember that beginning, that was, in the fire, and then from there, you still go through some ups and downs, but that startup moment, I'll never forget.
Courage and vision. It's a courage and vision for you to get to where you are. But it's interesting. You talk about the startup and getting investment dollars. So you got to treat them like gold, right? It's like every single penny is so precious, and it has to be allocated correctly to survive. It's not like, man, someone gave me, I don't know, 10 million, 20 million bucks. I'd start this and I'd do this. It's not as easy as that, right? Without a roadmap.
It goes quick, too. It's crazy how quick the money goes.
Yeah. No, agreed. It's just unexpected things come up all of the time. And, you run an event, and it's like, can we get a table? Yep. Can we get this? Yep.
Can we buy a new
Can
light?
we do this? Yep.
We need tablecloths.
You need it. But
Gotta wash the tablecloths.
You need it because you want that customer to come back. Because if we're one and done, then we're done, right? And that's true of every vertical. So getting it right uniquely is so critical to our success. And again, that's why I love who I'm surrounded by, because I'm literally surrounded by perfectionists at the end of the day. They want to get it right, not just for their customer, but for their future. And that's just embedded in them because that's their name. When an event gets hosted here, Johnny put it on. And that's why in how many months? They got rated second overall because that's your signature. And that's something to be incredibly proud of. But let's skip over to talk a little bit about the Phoenix. We've gone through quite a bit.
I want to hear about Emerge, too.
So I'll just kind of go back to the whole origin and startup because let me tell you, like telling my wife that I'm going to stop doing. I had 2 businesses that I quit basically to come over here and do what we're doing. And I have done and been a part of a handful of startups in the past, and it's stressful. Long hours, grinding, but it's also very gratifying when you build something, right, and you see what it has become. But telling my wife that, like, hey, we're doing this again, she was like, are you sure? And I was like, yeah, let me go toss 100 hours into this new logo we're doing for the rebranding and kind of hit the ground running with that. I was really worried about how that was going to go over on socials. I think one guy said it looked like a duck, and then everybody else said it was pretty cool. So it went over well.
Did that one guy that said it looked like duck leave
Jacob Beaver, I'll never forget.
Every night I think about
I'm just playing.
Jacob, where are you?
I don't know who that was, but no hard feelings. To Emerge. So anyways, after we kind of got the Phoenix rebranding taken care of, socials, buttoned up and looking pretty, we kind of thought that, hey, we had a great opportunity to add on to what we're doing with the Carolina Esports Hub, and that would be to provide custom merchandising for esports teams and clubs and just fans in general. I had been in merchandising in the past, and particularly with esports. In about 2015, we started doing some work for another team and kind of worked with some of the other providers and suppliers in the space and realized that it wasn't the greatest as far as either delivery or communication or, one of the many things that it takes to do something very well. So that said, we realized that we could probably do that better, and with our network, we could cater towards that and provide a solution that also benefited the schools. So with Emerge, we've come up with our own custom line, but we also develop custom storefronts for teams and clubs that really can't generate revenue for their programs any other way. So we set up the Booster Club program to where anyone can come, set up a storefront. We do all the work. We literally set up all the graphics, do all the art for free, get you set up with a shop. You never have to have any inventory. It's all on demand. So one of your customers, your
And
fans,
the
your
designs
players,
are fire. the designs are fire that you come up with.
They're
Dude.
not
They're
bad.
crazy.
Thank you.
They're all right.
Appreciate that. But yeah, so it's like we're giving them the opportunity to provide real money and revenue to add to their programs, which, you know, we in esports, in high schools, they put the money into the traditional baseball, the football programs, et cetera, and esports kind of come last. So we're putting them at the forefront with our program, allowing them to take 50% of the revenue or the profits from every sale and put that back into their program, which is just kind of invaluable, and has been a really good, you know, program and a hit so far with anybody who's been a part of it.
Yeah, all 12 CMS schools also got a shop because of you as well. So
Yep, they all. I think the designers were students from each program.
Yep.
They got to go use our online jersey kit builder tool, which allows you to create your own custom jersey, brand it to your team colors, add your logo, numbers, etc. Check out one off, you know, your name on the back, and have it at your doorstep within 3 weeks. It's pretty cool.
Have you guys used that yet? It's so cool to use the 3D builder.
I've never used it.
So, claim to fame. I actually created a Charlotte Phoenix themed jersey on that builder, sent it to Matt, and he's like, "This could actually be the next jersey." I was like, "Shut up! You're just messing with me, right?"
It was cool. I was not
like,
actually.
Let's go. Let's go. Let's go. Even I can create something cool on that 3D builder.
Yep. Emergeapparel.gg, by the way.
So-
Shameless plug.
Talking about the Phoenix, you being the caster,
Sure.
we kind of pivoted a little bit. And when I say that, meaning we had a team, obviously, that had been doing very, very well.
What game?
Rocket League.
We had a Rocket League team, yeah.
We've had a couple different teams, but Rocket League in particular is what I'm alluding to. But we had to part ways for a variety of different reasons. And we were very cautious on, our next group as to, what's going to help us amplify the business model, what's going to help us amplify them, right? Giving them a chance to make a mark on the scene a little bit as well. So if you don't mind, Bear, tell us a little bit about the team, their background, and your excitement around kind of being able to cast for them.
Yeah, we've had this team for how many months now? I'm just kidding. It's been
6 months.
They came on this split, and so Wavy and Zonts were competing in our weekly tournaments that we host for Stay Plugged In, staypluggedin.gg/events. If you want to check those out, have a new format coming, cool things in the works. But Wavy and Zont teamed up together for what we call Carry to College, right? And Carry to College is the biggest online recruitment event for Stay Plugged In. So all the colleges come through. It's really cool. All the colleges are also within the Discord and have one-on-one conversations. So basically a college fair online. So super cool. But those two, specifically, Zont and Wavy, teamed up for Carry to College Summer, and they ripped through the Division I bracket, and they've been competing in their weeklies, and so naturally they caught our eye, and we wanted to really include them. Not only were they, thinking about their future themselves in the collegiate space, which, by the way, they have a bright future in my eyes from using this platform. But number two, they're just cracked at Rocket League, right? So we brought them on for the Charlotte Phoenix, and ever since then, I mean, think about the accomplishments they've had. I've got to cast them beating 4-time champion Turbo Pulse as part of Dark Zero, right? They were able to accomplish that in one of the qualifiers, and the many teams that they were able to challenge too even made close qualifiers, and we have a split coming up as well here in January. So I'm excited to see where these two go. Tivar is our third, and he's actually competed in a couple of Stay Plugged In events. So to see them take that next step and know their future, know how they can contribute, and the fact that we're able to support them in their journey, both on the collegiate side and now in the professional side, is pretty cool.
The team's super refreshing too, because we used to have that kind of monkey on our back with okay, cool, the pressure's on, the Phoenix are going to collapse.
Could never
right?
clutch up.
It was
Clutch up.
The curse, but
Yeah.
it was.
multiple
I'm becoming to
teams.
think this
Yeah.
might be real, but no, they've come back, a couple big reverse sweeps, right, or
Yeah,
a big
that's
reverse
right.
sweep, and have proven that they can play with their backs against the wall under pressure, and they're kids, right? Where else can you go? Pathway to pro, skip college,
Yeah.
or play pro and then go play also in college is just amazing to me.
And in the breaks for RLCS too, they won the Regain tournament hosted by Rizzo. So that's those teams that are just on the cusp of becoming a pro, like the top 16 in North America, and they won that tournament. So they're literally the next ones up because of that tournament as well.
Super excited for them
Yeah.
personally, but for their future.
Yeah.
And again, amplifying the space, amplifying the hub,
right.
et cetera. But beyond that, we also had an iRacing team. We kind of dove into that pool for the very first time.
did.
And talk a little bit about the results there, Siege, and the
Yeah,
team.
I think one of the coolest things that happened, specifically to our venue, was we were sponsored by Next Level Racing, and they provided us with some racing rigs so that we could utilize them within the space. And then I think that kind of got us thinking about a lot of things, along with developing a team. So we were in the bidding for an eNASCAR racing team. So we hired kind of the management team of James Bickford, David Shieldhouse, and Ryan Vargas. And then Graham Bowen was our front runner driver that got third place at their NASCAR Hall of Fame event over at the NASCAR Hall of Fame, which was...
In how many months?
Which was the second biggest iRacing event that has happened at that point. And because we'd hosted one here. It was pretty good as well.
Biggest.
The biggest.
Best.
A really good one. And that's been a really, really cool thing because I think it's interesting. We look at the game of Rocket League and, it's still a kid sitting behind a computer with a controller in his hand. Obviously, there's a lot of hype behind that. There's a lot of cool things that happen. But I think something changes a little bit from the parental perspective or an administrative perspective when you put somebody in a racing rig and you have them race against each other. You just see a little bit more of that. I remember David Shieldhouse after that Monday Night Racing event, drenched in sweat. Like, I touched him and it was his shirt was completely soaked. And it's just like you saw how much intensity they have behind that wheel when they're racing for that 50 lap or whatever, because there's so much mental strength that goes into that, but so much physical strength that it takes to be able to hold your body together, just like regular racing or something like that. Obviously not the same dangers, a little bit cheaper than wrecking a real race car, but still been a really, really awesome journey on the iRacing side and something that we've been really excited about this year.
Super cool. So super looking forward to 2023 with the Phoenix and their continued journey amongst those, as well as some of our content creators that we brought on board this year, some of the special things they've been able to do for us as well. But we talk a lot about community in this podcast, and one of the things we've talked about is the venue, kind of what we've been able to host here, and iRacing and everything else, CMS, you name it. But we've also been able to bring esports out to the communities as well. John did some events, which I'll let you dive into. I know for Red Bull up in Raleigh, they're here at the airport, over at the grid for Goodwill. But you can dive into some of the things that we've been able to do with some of the equipment for esports, kind of bringing it out to the community so that they can share in the fun as well.
Yeah, like the R6 after party.
Yeah. Lives in infamy. So outside of the events that we've done, right? Like we've talked a lot during this podcast about events that have explicitly taken place either here in the venue or at colleges. Our expansion into the scene is so much more larger than that. Outside of events, we also consult with CLT events, and that takes the form of so many different ideals and events and other things of that nature as well. I think two that come to mind really quickly that really ties back into our high school recruiting program, into collegiate, is us partnering with local public and private schools to build out their esport labs. We built a whole slew of computers for Charlotte Christian School here as well. And the airport event that Rick had alluded to is something that was a big first for us. It was one of the single largest private events that we did in 2022, and we produced an esports event through the rental of our iRacing rigs and other fun
the
activities
Maverick
as well.
experience.
We got to do all the merch as well.
The Top Gun
Exactly.
experience.
Exactly.
It was the first for me too, because it was the first time we had to convert the rigs from a racing aspect to the flight aspect.
It was a really
hours.
fantastic event. We partnered with the Charlotte Douglas International Airport and their aviation department to produce an employee appreciation event where we were able to bring in modified racing rigs to run Microsoft Flight Simulator. So imagine yourself working at the aviation department at the airport and being able to enjoy what we've coined as our Top Gun experience, where you can fly an F-18 Raptor just like Maverick did in the movie. So for a lot of these aviation employees, that's something that they will never, ever get to do, likely ever again. And here they had that opportunity to sit behind that wheel and pilot a jet. We had so many wonderful reviews from that event, so many employees who came over to us and said, this was truly a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity. Thank you so much for providing this service. And what really is important to me, much more than any of that as well, is just the community building we were able to do. Our event at the airport was the foundation for the airport to announce a historic profit-sharing agreement where at our event, they told all of their employees that they were receiving a bonus $2,000, every single employee of the aviation department, nearly 800 employees. And we were able to help bring that message to them. We were able to be a part of that historic profit sharing agreement. So this is so much more than just video games and esport teams and things like that. What I am so humbled by is seeing how we have built a vehicle around esports to further our engagement and development into our community. Whether that's a community here in Charlotte or communities all across this country where we travel and produce these events. That is, I believe, our biggest claim to fame, in bringing these people together, no matter who they are, and being able to really dive deep.
So, bingo. At the end of the day, that's what it's all about. So to dovetail off of that with community, kind of flipping it over to you, Kyle, a couple of other things that Charlotte Events help produce, if you could talk just briefly about Dottie Rose, as well as Florix.
Yeah, absolutely. So another pillar of the County Esports Hub is really being able to engage women and girls in tech and esports and kind of everything that surrounds that. And we're able to do that through those two particular activations among many others. But I remember Florix this year, it was in the middle of the hurricane. And it was a really cool experience, like always. But we had
What is Florix?
So Florix is a conference where it's I'm not the expert by any means of what it is, but it's a networking kind of tech conference where
For
a bunch
women.
of women in tech get to come together, and there's panels and speakers and a whole kind of sponsor fair attached to it where you can meet a lot of really great people and have a really great day. And I remember producing it, and at first we were like, is it going to happen? And calling Jocelyn and going back and forth, like, we need this equipment here, and then there's the rain, and if you've ever transported production equipment in the rain, it's not the easiest thing in the world. So there's so many different things that go into it, but it was really cool to see it all come together and everyone come and be able to listen to some great speakers talk about really how to empower more women to kind of rise up the ranks and get those jobs that men usually get a little easier in our world. So that was really cool. And on the other side, the Dottie Rose camps, which is something that I taught alongside with Sharon, Dr. Sharon Jones. That was kind of completely different, but same vein, right? So it's a camp, kind of a series of camps that girls come in and we teach them how to code, we teach them how to game, we put them on teams, lead their practices in Rocket League, and then they build really cool things in Unreal Engine. They build their own website using kind of basic HTML and JavaScript. And that was my personal favorite, because working with those girls that were anywhere from 6 to 12 was really, really awesome to see those dots start to connect. Because they don't get that support at school that you traditionally, or that you get in esports, right? That the guys usually really easily get. So it was cool to be able to provide that for them and teach them for a week or two at a time. And it was always great because there was 2 or 3 girls that always came back, and they'd remember me and CJ, and we would be able to like, oh my God, Kyle, Coach Kyle, let's hop on and practice some Rocket League. I'm like, all right, let's do it. We got to learn how to code at some point today, but we can play some Rocket League first. So those 2 things this year was something that kind of warms my heart to kind of reflect back on.
I think in addition to that as well, we've talked a lot today about our intention behind reaching communities of color, the LGBTQ community, women and young girls, bringing them into places where there's not typically a lot of that demographic, right? So while all those things are amazing, I think one of the things that really sold me on this whole idea of an organization was truly our commitment to building non-traditional pathways to college through our high school collegiate recruiting platforms. What is so incredible to me to see is that we're able to go into marginalized communities, often not communities of color, and give a lot of these kids pathways to college that they would have never have had before. In doing so, we've worked alongside a lot of HBCUs here in Charlotte and throughout the South to really engage all communities, all demographics, all marginalized people, and give everybody an opportunity to participate and really build on their life and build on their future as well.
And that's what we've done here locally. And through Stay Plugged In, Kyle, I know we've partnered with a lot of the local federations too. So it's what we're doing around our area, what we can do, and then also supporting those who are trying to do those same grassroots efforts across the country, right? And really teaming up with them too. So talk a little bit about the partnerships, who we're with, and who we're looking to support so they can better their communities.
Yeah, absolutely. Like, kind of been the theme of this entire talk is how can we engage communities and help them grow and bring more opportunities to them that they might not be aware of. And not only do we do it here in the Carolinas along a number of different areas from local gaming communities to local colleges, we also do it nationally. We're partnered with the IHSEA, which is the Illinois High School Esports Association, and the Indiana High School Esports Network, and the acronyms get so crazy. But IHSEA and ISIN, for shorter, they're kind of the same thing, grassroots organizations that specifically provide in school high school competitions in esports, in Rocket League, Valorant, Overwatch, and we're partnering with them to connect them with more recruiting scholarship opportunities to bring those opportunities to the students that a lot of them just don't know about. Because, you know, in baseball, basketball, and football, by the time you pick up a ball, usually your dad's like, you're going to college, right? No matter how good you are or how bad you might be, you're going to college, son. You're going to college, daughter. In esports, it's not that. So many people, even when you're 16, 17, looking for college, about to make that decision, they don't know that these scholarships exist. So we're able to educate those people, bring those opportunities to them here in the Carolinas, in Indiana, Illinois, and we have a couple national partners as well in the high school spaces, in Play Versus, in VHEL, UGC, so on and so forth, where those platforms aren't really hosted somewhere in stone in a geographic location, but also just everywhere. So it's really cool to kind of be able to grow that and just bring those opportunities and awareness to everybody to help them take their next step.
So
many acronyms, by the way. It's
Yeah.
like there's 87 acronyms for all of them.
But that's, again, I'll keep saying the same thing. It's our job day in and day out to try to amplify the space as best as we can. For us personally, as a group, as a company, well, what's the saying? All tides.
Rising tides raise
Sky
all
at night.
ships.
Great.
Oh,
By the way, for both Dottie Rose and Florix, because I've been to those camps, I was at Florix as well, they had T-shirts that were fire. Who created those?
Pretty sure I'm sitting next to
I
him.
know a guy.
You know, a guy? You
I
know a guy.
think every state needs a hub.
Every state needs a hub.
You know what I'm saying?
Well, guess what?
We could be those.
2023.
Oh, snap.
We're the hub of hubs.
So
We
what
might
we've
have some
done
expansion there.
a lot today, we've talked a lot about the community, right, that we're building. To me, one of the best things that we've done is just are the lives we're changing through Stay Plugged In, right? So I know that we said 12 million this year. Is that what it is? But
This
it's
recruiting class,
over
2022.
20 million, or what's that number total, right?
We are about 21 to 22 million in facilitated. We've only been doing it for 2 recruiting classes. So recruiting class of 2021, those seniors in 2022.
Which is mind-blowing to me personally, but even so we can quantify that number, which is just astronomical. It's amazing that we're putting or helping facilitate students from high school to college through esports, or one of the ancillary business aspects of esports. But the lives that we're changing, we can't quantify, right? Like, the kid goes off to school, finds a career path that they never would have explored, meets their significant other, future husband or wife, and just basically just changing the trajectory of their lives, right? And you can't put the numbers on
It's
that.
mind-blowing.
It really is. It gives me chills.
Two of the best stories are homegrown talents. If you think
Yep.
about it, Kira Greer, who's a local talent who went on to Ottawa to play Overwatch, if I'm not mistaken. And one of my personal favorites, Kai Hickey, Sun Valley High School graduate, had no intent of going to college. Like, literally, he was interning for us, learning how to do more video editing for his clips for Rocket League. And he's like, yeah, I'm not going to school. It's just probably going to go to work UPS. Got it all.
No, you're too
mapped out.
talented not to go to school.
But that's where he was, right? Played in a number of our tournaments, got recognized quickly, got a few offers, and ended up going to college. And I'll always remember, speaking of events, we hosted one at the Charlotte Motor Speedway, and that's where his mom came up and just hugged me. I was like, I don't know if you knew this, Kai was not going. That's the first time I knew that. Kai was not going to go to college. You guys made all the difference. And to this day, that may be the one. Granted, of all the students that come through the platform, that's the one that's going to stick in my brain the most as a dad myself, that, to your point, completely changed his trajectory, right, through gaming, his love of gaming, his passion for it, and obviously he was qualified enough to get scholarship money and everything from there. So I think we're kind of winding down a little bit here. So I will ask one last question and kind of let you all respond with your favorite moment for the hub of 2022. Notice I pre-qualified with the hub. It's not getting married, which congratulations, John, you just recently did get married. You're welcome. But 2022, favorite recollection or memory surrounding the hub. Could be anything, but I'm going to put it all on you to start, Bear.
Sweet. So the birth of my child. Oh, the hub, really.
Oh, the hub.
So that's obviously number one. But hub
Cub
really-
Light.
Cub Light baby. Oh man, she's had her first Christmas, amazing. But as far as hub moments go, it has to be casting PAX East. Having that availability to meet two of my favorite casters and cast next to them, and it was a great experience from start to finish. We hosted another LAN side by side with PAX East, and I had the availability to cast that event as well and just explore the city of Boston, explore PAX and what it has to offer as well, which was pretty cool. Obviously all those indie titles looking to break through, so being able to experience that, experiencing the big city too in Boston was super cool, and then
Love
being
Boston.
able to
Great
connect
city.
with just so many people, and even the co-caster that came on for the Phoenix, named Gilthanes, I got to meet him there too, so meeting those people online that you always hang out with, and having that experience was second to none.
All right, I'm next. So Rick and I, so we're both baseball guys, right?
I love you, Matt. I just love you.
I love you too, CJ. No, both. We have a baseball family, and Rick's background's baseball. Kind of, I don't think we touched on, but was the precursor to Stay Plugged In, the whole play versus model, right?
Perfect game.
Yep, perfect game. Sorry, not play versus perfect game. Anyway, so we got to have an event at the Charlotte Knights Stadium, and we were sitting here having a meeting prior to that, and Rick's like, somebody's got to throw out that first pitch. And before I could put my hand up, I was like, Rick's like, Bryce. And so my son, 10-year-old son, thank you, Rick. Again, that was one of the highlights of my life, not only year, to watch him throw out the first pitch at the Charlotte Knights Stadium. Yeah.
That was awesome. It was a packed house, by the way. It was a sellout. He threw a strike.
112 miles an hour at 10.
Just in case anyone on the Dodgers organization is listening. Dude can fling it. Sorry.
I've got I actually have two quick moments, and I'll be quick. I didn't get too much into my origin at all, but I've worked for most of my adult career as a political operative, working on local, state, and federal campaigns since I was 16 years old, and as a fundraiser in politics in the nonprofit sector as well. So a big highlight for me was how important and how incredible it was to bring so many political officials together in our venue, and giving that opportunity to our community to come in and ask hard-hitting questions of our leaders, going all the way to school board and all the way to U.S. House and Congress. That is something, while not esports related in any capacity, this esports organization was able to produce that event and give that opportunity for people to go across aisle. And in a society as divided as we all are, I really just cannot express the importance of just having two people of opposing viewpoints in the same room and being able to ask those folks questions. So it was a very big honor to be able to be behind the production of that as well. And the second thing, again, just because of how I identify, being able to, having had the opportunity to build a safe space, especially in an America where we've had shootings that have targeted the LGBTQ community as recently as Colorado Springs, being able to build a safe place for hundreds of LGBTQ Charlotteans to come together and just live and be their authentic and true self and just have a nice night and not have to worry about the horrors that we have to face as a community on a daily basis has been one of the most rewarding things I've been able to do within this organization, and something that I thank this entire team for giving me the freedom and opportunity to be able to really chase what's passionate to me and being able to build those spaces.
I think you're doing some more with that revolving around gaming as we go into 2023, if I'm not mistaken, too. So more to come.
Yeah, those are great, by the way, those parties slash events I always go with.
He's been drunk at many of them.
Yeah, they're very, very fun. It's a great community, to say the least. So for me, my favorite moment was at a LAN event that we hosted here at a local college in North Carolina, Catawba Valley Community College. I remember vividly, it was the first day, it was Saturday. I got up there, and I noticed these two parents standing behind the stage, watching their son's viewpoint on his screen, kind of over his shoulder. And I noticed them, usually when you see parents at LAN events in today's world, they're a little disengaged. They don't really know what to follow. So typically when I see parents, I kind of go up to them and explain how Valorant it works, right? Like, hey, that one's your son, and they're winning or they're losing, so on and so forth. But these two parents knew exactly what was going on. And I noticed it, and I was just like, wow, that tide starting to shift in esports, where you're seeing more parents get more involved, and you could see it in their faces, the moments in the games where the spike was going down and the big shifts in the rounds that parents usually never know what that actually means to the game. They were following along. I think the mom was actually biting her nails, just so nervous for her own son. It was really cool to see that, and I ended up pulling them aside just to ask them, like, how did you get involved? Like, how do you feel about Valorant? And they're like, look, it's what our kid loves, so we're going to back him up. And before coming to that LAN event that we were hosting, they had no idea all the opportunities. They just thought it was just a really fun hobby for their son that he was super passionate about, that there's a lot of online activity, not a lot of opportunities past high school. And that kid was 13, he was in 8th grade, or just leaving 8th grade, and kind of a rising freshman. And they're like, we're fully committed. Like, we're going to get our kid a scholarship. And since then, he's come to the other LAN event that we hosted in Raleigh at a local community college this past October. The event I'm referring to was in April.
Same time as the hurricane, by the way.
Same time as the hurricane, yeah, same weekend. That was awesome. But he went to that one and played in all of our other kind of 4 or 5 online Valorant recruiting showcases. And there's already colleges asking. They hit me or Nick up, and they're like, hey, who's this Justice kid? Like, we want to talk to him. It's like, well, you got to wait a few years. He's a freshman. But it's really cool to see. It was really cool to kind of see that parental moment, that there's so much, there's beginning to be more engagement, and seeing that, or for us to have that ability to educate those parents and show them the path to the scholarships was really just something that will stick out for this year for me.
Yeah, I think I have a similar story. I'll make it quick, but so like I mentioned previously, a couple hours ago, it feels like, but I was a streamer as well, tried to go full time, and a kid that always came through and smashed everybody at Rocket League, because I used to host Rocket League tournaments. His name was One Tab. So he found the Stay Plugged In network through my streams when I started promoting it on my own personal streams. So he came through, and the first LAN event that we ever ran at Shenandoah, we called it Spinandoah because,
why not?
Be creative. Yeah, exactly. So I show up, meeting him was cool enough, but his dad was there, and he had no idea what to think about this. He was trying, he was with his son when he played baseball as well, so similar story with you guys, but he was just passionate about Rocket League, and the dad had no idea what was going on at first, and I was talking to him outside. I had no idea who he was at the time. I was just trying to engage with parents. That's all I was trying to do, right, is talk to parents and really let them know what it's all about. And then he told me that he was actually One Tab's dad. He told me Steven, and I was like, who's Steven, right? He's like, oh, One Tab, and he remarked, he's like, everybody's like, oh yeah, One Tab, we know him from online. And he's just, his mind's blown that everybody knows him from online experience. So he walks into the venue for the first time. It was during the pandemic, so everybody's wearing masks, only a certain amount of people in the building at a time for protocol, right? So we wanted to be super safe in that regards. So he walks in the arena for the first time, and he's like, what is this? He hadn't seen Rocket League like that. And so he saw his son score for the first time, and I'm kind of talking him through the process of, yeah, it's just soccer with cards, right? Just pass it one another. He was popping off on LAN 2, and his dad kept screaming. He was like, that's my son. That's my son. So he went from knowing nothing at all to just being excited, and it just changed, everything for him. It's cool.
That is awesome.
Really cool.
I'll let you have the last word if you want your story. Where you want to go?
Go ahead.
Okay, I'll go. I have a parent story too, isn't that so? It just goes everywhere.
It's the support for
It's
esports
great.
is so critical.
It is. During the CMS LAN, there was a mom of the JT Williams team. One of her players was the Rocket League player. I want to say it's Grassy or Nutella, somebody. It's so funny we talk about their gamer tags and not their actual names. Like, I have no clue who these kids' actual names are.
Exactly.
But she walks up to me and she said she had another son, an older son, who had some kind of disability, but sports wasn't necessarily an option for him based off his disability. So she's like, we have never been a sports family. It's not something we ever thought we were going to do or whatever. And my youngest son is really not that into sports either. But she saw this first season. She had kind of rallied the JT Williams whole crew. She made little signs for the JT Williams team while they were there. And really the mom leading the effort and like getting the kids kind of excited about the whole thing was awesome. But she looks at me and she says, like, we will always come to one of these. This has changed our perspective. And it's our sport. It can be our sport for our family. And it's something where we can get that same outlet that you would get from regular sports, but in a very different venue that just makes it so, so special. So she was like, anything you need, I'll always be there. Tell me who I need to talk to. We got to change the world with this because it changed our life just as a family. And I think that has been resounding from all of us, that parents understanding, even you, Rick, you're the shining example of that, of a parent that didn't really understand it and got involved. And no, I'm not. Nobody knows. You have the hat on, okay? You let yourself on that one.
Smart move.
But it's amazing to watch that story. And one of the things that's also amazing is I've kind of watched us here today. It's also spaghetti with all of our different businesses, right? It's just everything touches everything, right? So like the Phoenix stuff is going to touch the spin stuff, which touches the emerge stuff, which touches the event stuff, and that's why our organization is it's so nimble, because we all kind of have that knowledge within all of us. So we're able to kind of execute on projects very, very quickly because Matt understands the creative side of it, and getting them a jersey and being able to build the graphics for the stream, even though that is kind of 3 different jobs. All the verticals use it in some capacity, right? So it makes us all very, very nimble on that side. And I think that's really, really cool. And the more and more we investigate the hub and how we can make it successful, I think the fact that we have this knowledge that goes through all these verticals, it's very, very important. Each one of them is super, super critical to our success going forward.
I'd put our team against any other team out there in the country. I will say, you reminded me of one other thing, and then I'll let you go, Rick. I'm sorry. But like going back to all the verticals, touching everything, and nothing too big or nothing too small. Like these walls here behind us, we're at the R6 event in Charlotte, right? So we did over 6,500 square feet of these graphic walls that were around the entire place. We helped with the production. We helped with other merch. We did, from A to Z. They couldn't have facilitated that without our team.
Chairs in a hotel. That's all I'm gonna say.
Everything. Putting together chairs and desks in the hotel till 4 a.m. Somebody got locked in the.
Sorry, Connor.
No matter how big it is, or even helping some of the smaller teams in the state that I've helped personally brand. No matter how big or how small, we're trying to touch everything in the space and help everyone grow.
So that's what it's all about. That's what it's all about. And everyone out there sees and hears from the team that is here, but we've got so much more, even behind the scenes, with Connor and Sean currently running production on this event. Nick out in the bullpen, Jordan, who's expecting his first. We got some of the execs with Jeff and Scott, Lori, who puts her all into everything every day. Everyone, I think, gets a call literally every single day, and I apologize for that. Cody Dragon, who has the best name in the world, who's also expecting. He's out of Charleston, just so you can see our national reach a little bit. Renee, who's out of Connecticut. We've got Braden, that we just recently brought on to help us with content. Missouri. Oh, I got it right. Braden, I'm on it, buddy. And Sheridan, she does a great job for us from the state of Illinois. She's in Indiana? I thought she was Illinois. She was born in Illinois. I have 1 for 2. But she'll be happy to know she went to FSU. My daughter just committed to soccer to FSU. So, Sharon, I got to hit you up after this and we'll talk. So, we've got a whole group of people all around.
Can't forget
not just
Ben Lasky as well.
Oh, how in the world? Lasky!
Bad boy. The bad boy's not here.
Lasky.
Bad boy
That's
Blas.
right. I haven't seen him in. Is he still
He
working?
decided to take a vacation, so that's why you were like, I'm not going to.
Does he actually still work here? I haven't seen him in how many months?
How many months?
Bingo.
Let's go, my guy.
Bingo. But it takes, as they say, a village to get it right. And we have that, to your point. Same thing, same sentiment. I'd put this team up against anybody. So excited for the future. 2022 moment that stood out for me more than anything is really surrounding our Rocket League team. I'm not huge into watching the events, but I did watch them. And a lot of the ones early on were painful. And I remember being on the phone with either you or Jay-Z or maybe you, just, man, we can't seem to get over the hump. But this new team has showed us some pretty good life. And for me, the best moment was they fell down 2-0 in the series. And I'm thinking, here we go again. They were playing a very good team, top-tier team. And they came in and had a reverse sweep. And at that point, I was like, those freaking kids. God bless them. I mean, I put myself in their shoes. Again, as a dad, I know when my kids compete at sport, when Bryce competes at sports, and he's in a moment, you feel greater than he does for him. Yep. Not because you're his dad, but how's Bryce feeling, right? So that's how I felt for them. That was just a cool moment for them. Mm. They went ahead the next day and beat another top-tier team. So kudos to them, but that was a different conversation on the phone that time with CJ and Kyle and Jay-Z and everything else of what a great feeling. for them. And that's what it's all about. We all want to do well, period. And we're all pulling in the same direction. So I'm excited for 2023. I think we'll see, you talked about the hub and other locations. We'll see some cool things happening in 2023.
Spoilers.
No spoilers. just a lot of cool things, but all surrounding just amplifying the space, whether we're growing with Raleigh, we're growing with Columbia, South Carolina. We've done things for UNCG specifically with curriculum. We're building in High Point. We're throughout the Carolinas. We are the team throughout the Carolinas. And we want to be there for anybody else. And hopefully they're there for us so that we can all rise together. So kudos to all of you. I appreciate it. I'll hand it over to Bear to close us out.
Absolutely.
And we'll go from there.
Yeah, so, and across the country too, because we have our content creators we brought on too, with Doridium, Potato Pie, and Katrina, and Greek has been around with ALGS. So yeah, it never ends as far as where we support. And obviously in the Charlotte area, we've been supporting like crazy. That's going to wrap up this episode, the very first episode. We appreciate you all for joining us here on the Esports Architects podcast. In future episodes, we're going to cover what we're doing around the hub. So whether we're hosting events or just everything about our efforts here in the Carolinas. We appreciate you being along for the ride. Make sure that you like, comment, and subscribe on the YouTube channel. That way you don't miss out on an episode. And follow us on social media as well. That'll be linked in the description of the YouTube video too. Until next time, bye-bye.